Sure. I would just wanted to, for those of you who might not know me, I'm Adam Ledford. I'm the city administrator of Middlesex. We had some representatives from you guys come to us at our last council meeting and talk to us about a couple of different drainage issues that are currently occurring inside of the fair area. And I apologize, I accidentally called the fair the park all the time, so if I say that, I don't mean any insult by it, it's just common language I use. Mike and I are both here tonight because one of the issues actually has to do with the hospital as well. I'll speak about the issue of drainage to the park area first. We committed at the last meeting that we would do a little bit of surveying to see grade issues for the lines that are possible locations or lines that would possibly come out of the fairgrounds in the future to help with drainage issues off of the fairgrounds. I also pointed out, and if any of you would like to see it, I don't know if this had been an issue for any of you up to this point, but I did pull out our records that date back to the 50s that show that all of the current drainage lines that run from the fairgrounds to the park are actually property, they are private tile lines. Those are not city rain sewer drains. So any repair or replacement work that would have to occur on those lines would not be a city responsibility. However, we did commit previously, we already talked with members of this board, that we would be willing to jet them this winter, and that is still on our schedule, and we recommitted to that night. So we will be jetting those lines, and hopefully that'll kind of give both parties a little bit of a picture about the state of those lines that currently run under the park grounds. So I guess the other thing from our perspective is if there is an interest in going in there and replacing certain portions of those lines at some point, that we would be happy to give you permission to do so as well, to go in there in the park area and do so. We just ask that you don't do it around the July 4th weekend, but outside of that, we would be happy to facilitate any of your needs in that process. The plans for the surveying, we've already contacted a surveyor who is committed to do the work. It's simply just a matter now of getting the snow off the ground so that, and I understand we're about to get some pretty hefty warm weather for a couple of days here, maybe that'll help us out a little bit. But as soon as we get some, we'll put the material on the grounds and actually do some grading, so we'll start to do that. So that will happen early spring, late winter, sometime in that time frame. As far as the other line goes, there's another issue that you're probably aware of, and that is a corner rain sewer line that actually runs from underneath Faring Street over onto the fairgrounds. And one of the things that I mentioned to the representatives that came to the council meeting is just that morning I had learned something I had not learned yet, and that was that back in roughly 2005, my understanding was, is that both parties were actually, that the hospital came before both parties and actually requested permission to tap in and use that line and run it over into the fair area. Mike will know that issue a whole lot better than I will, so I'll actually let Mike talk about that if he wants to.
What we did actually is that water already was coming down the hill by Trimark Clinic, out into the street, catching the manhole and going into the fairgrounds. It's been doing that since 1981. What we did was, because it was eroding out so much and we had messes in the spring and the fall when it got cold, creating a huge ice skating rink down that hill when the water hit that concrete, we went to, Dale came before this group, took that to our board. He came before this group, I was told, got permission to go and tie into that line that we were already dumping our water into. So it was underground rather than on top of the ground. We went to the city council then, got permission to run a tile line from the end of that parking lot. It's a very small parking lot. Most of our water runs to the north. And it hits the storm sewer on Park Street. But that Trimark parking lot up there, that's the water that runs off from the hospital. That's the only water that goes down to the fairground.
I disagree with you.
Okay.
Like, if you sit there and watch that water come out, you can see it clear from the sump pump. I've seen it.
Right, but it's not from us.
It comes out of that tile.
But you know, you get all that water that's coming from whatever street that is, Bearing, all the way down there and ties into there, all that residential area. Okay, we're just a
So
small part.
there is more than just the hospital.
Oh, yeah, that whole street, if you look, it's cut out and there's an open curve for all that water that comes, every bit of that water that comes down that street goes into that storm sewer and dumps into the fairgrounds. Every single bit of it. The only thing we have that goes into there is that parking lot.
There's also some roof drains.
Is there? Okay. Well, that would be less water than the parking lot.
What money tie into there?
He tied into there too. He's the only one that tied into
That's
that.
probably why you see the surge, because he's got 3 sump pumps. Well, I know there's a sump pump. I didn't know where.
We've never had a water problem with that except for the last 2 years. When was the parking lot intake?
2 years ago. Or was the last summer 2 years ago, Dale?
What?
Last spring or the summer before? That parking lot on Trimark Clinic there.
7 or 8 years old.
No, Dale. It's not. No, it's not. We go back to records. It's 2 years ago.
It's 2 or 2 and a half
2005 or
years
2006.
Well, you mean when the intake was put in?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I don't know.
Yeah. But Mooney's, I don't know where Mooney's went before. I think Mooney's went into the sanitary, is what it did.
That's the place for it to go.
And he tied.
What's your name?
He tied into the storm sewer. We ran a tile just from that parking lot. We did not connect any roof drains to that tile. We put a single tile down and ran it out and down the
Okay, so
street.
it's more than just the hospital using that as
It could be. I don't know. We just tied. We ran it down the street and tied into that on the east side of the road there.
I'm aware of one, maybe 2 houses that are using
I know Mark Williams had it,
Yeah, I know. He's the one that came to us and started the whole talk.
but we done it for him.
Yeah.
So what have you got up there for a watershed? An acre and a half?
Oh, I'd say no more than an acre, that parking lot. It's just the Trimark parking lot and part of that other parking lot. The rest of ours goes to the north. It may be, we may have had, before we put the new parking lot in, we may have had water come from the north, that direction. But now that we put that new parking lot in, it's shaped to go to the north, and we've got 2 manholes in that parking lot that run to the north, and we put that overflow pond on the north of the hospital there, so that when that water hits the storm, if it can't take it all, it backs up into that little pond, the holding pond, and then drops as the storm can take it. But we didn't, with this whole construction project, all we did was send it to the north and make our parking lots drain to the north, with the exception of that Trimark parking lot, and part of that old parking lot to the east of the Trimark parking lot. If you go out there and look where water's running, I mean, the water that gets into it very slowly, very gentle grade through there. So we're not getting a lot of dump real fast. So, but that same water, we didn't have the curb on in like we did now. It went right off. We had it rocked. That water went right over that, onto the street, and then down, up the manhole down there, and right into the So we did not tie any sumps in there. And as a matter of fact, we only have, what do we have? We've got 1 sump back in the home health area. I'm trying to think if there's another one in there somewhere.
There's 2 lines in the intake.
Yeah, we only have 1 sump pump in the whole hospital.
There's 2 12-inch pipes dumping into that manhole on the east side of the road.
There, but I'm just talking about a sump pump in the hospital. We have 1 residential sump pump. Is there 4? At the hospital?
Yes.
Okay. Which, yeah. And there's 1 outside the elevator pit that really works more than anything else.
Well, that's the only one. There is one in the north. Pleasant. One in the south.
Okay.
And there's also one southeast corner of the original building.
But we did not tie those into that line. We did not. All we did was put a line from that parking lot, period. There was no sump pump site in there at all. So whatever you're seeing surges, it's not coming from